According to this essay, how does the mind of the mature poet differ from the mind of the immature poet? A. It has more personality. B. It is a finely perfected medium for new combinations of feelings. C. It is more interesting. D. It has something to say. 5. To which of the following does Eliot compare the mind of the poet in this essay? A. A shred of platinum. B. Attentiveness brought to a fever pitch. C. The murder of Agamemnon. D. A sense of the perverse. 6. According to T.S. Eliot in his essay on Tradition and the Individual Talent, which of the following is true of tradition? A. In English literature, we cannot refer to the tradition, or to a tradition. At most, we employ the adjective in saying that the poetry of so-and-so is traditional, or even too traditional. B. Tradition is the great conversation which links all English literature and is a coherent and stable canon. C. All of the above. D. A and B only. 7. Tradition and Individual Talent is a critical essay by A. Shelley. B. Oscar Wilde. C. T.S. Eliot. D. None of these. 8. In Tradition and Individual Talent, according to T.S. Eliot, the term traditional usually means a. Something positive. B. Something negative. C. Something historical. D. Something old. 9. T.S. Eliot found spiritual support in a. Christianity. B. Hinduism. C. Buddhism. D. Judaism. 10. According to Saussure, the sign is made of A. 2 parts, representiment and interpretant. B. 3 parts, signified, signifier and referent. C. 2 parts, signified and signifier. 11. How did Saussure define long? A. The use of the language. B. The arbitrary component. C. The language system. 12. The arbitrariness of the sign means that A. There is not natural link between the word and its meaning. B. There is an internal natural link between the word and its meaning. C. Each sign is the result of both a natural and cultural agreement. 13. Language is structure because A. It is like a game. B. It provides structure to our thoughts. C. It is a mirror of the human mind. 14. What is the name of the linguist that defined the sign using a triadic model? A. Noam Chomsky. B. Ferdinand de Saussure. C. Charles Peirce. 15. The icon is A. The simplest sign since it resembles what it stands for. B. Something which is directly linked to the object. C. The result of the relationship between the representiment and the interpretant. 16. What is a syntagmatic relationship? A. It is a relation that holds between elements of the same category. B. It is a relation between expressions that occur next to one another. C. It is the relationship between signified and signifier. 17. The interpretant is A. The material for of the sign. B. The real object in the world. C. The object is mentally represented by the sign. Asterisk. 18. The blank is connected to its sign by virtue of law. A. Icon. B. Symbol. C. Index. 19. What is this image? And why? A. An icon. B. An icon and a symbol. C. An icon, an index and a symbol. 20. Saussure began teaching linguistics in A. 1907. B. 1916. C. 1922. D. 1913. 21. Cours de linguistique générale was published in A.1913. B.1916. C.1922. D.1897. 22. The idea of arbitrariness of language is concerned to A. Form and meaning. B. Number of signs. C. Grammar. D. None of the above. 23. The physical units used in language have been termed by Saussure as A. Arbitrariness. B. Signified. C. Signifier. D. Long. 24. The relationship between different words belonging to same grammatical category, as per Saussure, S concepts, is A. Long. B. Parole. C. Paradigmatic. D. Syntagmatic. 25. Which of the following is false? A. Long is a broader concept than parole. B. The term long basically mean language. C. Parole depends on the choice of linguistic aspects by an individual speaker. D. Parole is to be studied to study language thoroughly. 26. Who was Jacques Derrida? A. American scientist. B. Doctor. C. French philosopher. D. Advocate. 27. The linguist generally associated with the initiation of structuralism as a movement is A. Ferdinand de Saussure. B. Simon Blackburn. C. Noam Chomsky. D. Levi Strauss. 28. Structuralism originated in A. 1890 s. B. 1900 s. C. 1960 s. D. 1970 s. 29. The observation that structuralism is the belief that phenomena of human life are not intelligible except through their interrelations was made by A. Jacques Derrida, B. Simon Blackburn, C. Vladimir Propp, D. Claude Lévi-Strauss. 30. France saw a particular rise in structuralism in A.1960 s. B.1900 s. C.1970 s. D.1930 s. 31. Consider the following statements about I. Structuralism got spread all over the world following rise in its importance in France. E. Structuralism is related mainly to criticism in the fields of literature and painting. E. Structuralism began in 1960 s. IV. Structuralism tries to identify some already known structures in all new creations. A. I2, 3 and IV are correct. B. I3 and IV are correct. C. 3 and IV are correct. D. Only I and IV are correct. 32. Which of the following end critics is not considered to have dealt basically with structuralism? A. Jacques Derrida. B. Vladimir Propp. C. Claude Lévi-Strauss. D. Roman Jakobson. 33. The literary movement that began in response to structuralism was A. Romanticism. B. Colonialism. C. Post-structuralism. D. Post-colonialism. 34. Post-structuralism particularly observes the following shortcoming in structuralism. A. The structures it considered were not credible. B. The structures it includes are not self-sufficient. C. It overlooked number of basic structures. D. The theory of structures itself was not credible. 35. Which of the following critics is associated with post-structuralism rather than structuralism? A. Michael Foucault. B. Vladimir Propp. C. Roman Jakobson. D. Jacques Lacan. 36. The Gang of Four regarding structuralism did not include A. Levi-Strauss. B. Lacan. C. Barthes. D. Propp. 37. Third wave feminism seeks to include A. Wage earners. B. White, upper-class women. C. Lower-class, third-world women. D. Only racial minorities. 38. Which one of the following is not one of Elaine Showalter's four models of sexual difference? A. Biological. B. Occasional. C. Linguistic. D. Psychoanalytic. 39. Marxist feminists believe that A. Art is always conditioned by social beliefs and needs. B. Personal identity is inseparable from class identity. C. Art is a waste of time. D. Both A and B. 40. How sexual identity influences creation and reception of literature is the focus of A. Marxist feminism. B. Gender studies. C. The linguistic model. D. None of the above. 41. During the feminine phase, 1840-80, of feminism, women A. Imitated the dominant tradition in writing. B. Advocated minority rights and protested. C. Focused on women's texts and women as opposed to uncovering misogyny, hatred of women in male-authored texts. D. Carried out armed insurrections against men. 42. During the feminist phase, 1880-1920, feminism, women A. Gave up on equal rights. B. Advocated for minority rights and protested. C. Led the repeal of prohibition. D. All of the above. 43. Feminism is no longer A. Diverse. B. Homogeneous. C. The property of a patriarchal society. D. Organized. 44. The most prominent U.S. minorities among feminist writers are A. 18th century poets. B. Black and lesbian feminists. C. Male feminists. D. Native Americans. 45. Feminist criticism in general has moved away from exposing male bias and towards A. Studying women's texts and women authors. B. Advocating lesbian-only criticism. C. Acknowledging women's inferiority to men. D. None of the above. 46. Gender studies. A. Argues that the female gender is superior. B. Finds sexuality unimportant. C. Examines how gender is less determined by nature than constructed by culture. D. Is strictly about gay and lesbian writers. 47. Feminist criticism. A. Is concerned with the marginalization of women in a patriarchal culture. B. Tries to explain how the subordination of women is reflected and are challenged by literary texts. C. Tries to examine the experiences of women from all races, classes, and cultures. D. All of the above. 48. During the female phase, 1920 present, of feminism, women A. Are increasingly focused on uncovering misogyny in male-authored texts. B. Focus on women's texts and women. C. Have largely given up writing true literature. D. Have looked back to the feminine past but put a modern spin on it. 49. French feminism is focused on A. Marriage. B. The body. C. Myth. D. All of the above. 50. Who is considered the father of post-colonial theory? A. Edward Said. B. Chinua Achebe. C. Homi Bhabha. D. King George. Asterisk 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 asterisk.